Hello, on the right side of this slide, I have a chart wheel with the zodiac signs and the planets that rule each zodiac sign. And as you probably know, the traditional rulers are symmetrical on the fixed cross. So Saturn rules a Capricorn and Aquarius, and then you go up from there, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces. Go up from there, Mars rules Scorpio and Aries, and so on. And then you have the lights, the sun and moon at the top. And this is like a ladder of evolution where you start with the outermost planet, Saturn, the farthest away, the coldest, and you go up the ladder of evolution up to the sun and moon. Now, why did the ancient astrologers arrange this in this beautiful symmetrical way on the fixed cross? Well, I don't know exactly why they did, but in modern times we have discovered that there is a beautiful sacred geometry, and that sacred geometry suggests that schemes like this, where we associate zodiac signs with planets, should start with the beginning of Scorpio, not with the beginning of Aries. So it's a curious coincidence that this beautiful sacred geometry that we are discovering, or maybe rediscovering in modern times, lines up perfectly with these ancient ideas. So this beginning of Scorpio, zero Scorpio, is a critical point for connecting different kinds of things, like connecting the planets to the zodiac signs by associating a ruling planet with each zodiac sign. And from the point of view of this sacred geometry, Scorpio is the place to start. So it looks a little bit odd. Why is this circle starting with Scorpio? It actually makes perfect sense, and I'm going to show you why it makes perfect sense. And this video stands by itself as just a video on this Scorpio fusion point. I also ran into this idea in a series of videos on the four elements, where we needed to introduce this idea of beginning at Scorpio. So if you watch those videos, you may have come to this video from there. But that's not important. The important thing is we're just going to explain why Scorpio is the appropriate starting point for the planets that rule the zodiac signs, and also why in the vibrational astrology we connect Pisano-5 and Pisano-10 also at the beginning of Scorpio. So this beginning point of zero Scorpio appears in the ancient astrology. It appears in the most modern cutting edge astrology. I've also introduced ideas on where the sidereal zodiac comes from, and it's also based on building from the beginning of Scorpio. So I'm going to show you why the beginning of Scorpio is a connection point between different things. And it has to do with prime numbers. And prime numbers, these numbers like 7 that do not have two other numbers you can multiply together to equal them, other than multiply by 1. 7 times 1 equals 7. But a number like 15 equals 5 times 3. A number like 17 is prime. There are not two other numbers you can multiply together to equal it. And prime numbers are looked at by many mathematicians as the building blocks of mathematics, and mathematics as a foundation for at least the physical world. Prime numbers, in a sense, are the building blocks of life, of many, many things. And prime numbers, when you first look at them, they look random, but there's actually an order to them. And this order, this structure, this pattern, we can call it a rhythm of pattern of the in the pattern of the prime numbers. This rhythm of prime numbers creates the zodiac, believe it or not, and it pinpoints zero Scorpio as a connecting point. So we're going to learn how the prime numbers create the zodiac. I've made other videos on how something called Pisano periods create the zodiac. So there are frequencies, vibrations at this primal level of existence. These frequencies come out and they form structures. And one of those structures is the zodiac. And within the zodiac, the beginning of Scorpio becomes a linking point. So when you want to link the zodiac to something else, very often the connection is made at zero Scorpio, which might seem a little peculiar. Like, why don't we start with the beginning of Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, which are defining points of the tropical zodiac? But it's actually zero Scorpio that makes a linking point. It's able to, it's like a puzzle piece that can connect with other things. And let me show you how it does it. And by the way, the zero Scorpio point is 210 degrees from the beginning of the zodiac. So it's 210 degrees, which is 150 degrees going the short distance, which is the quincunx aspect. And so the quincunx aspect also makes connections between different things and different levels. Okay, that's a little abstract. Let me show you concretely how the prime numbers create the zodiac and how they bring out zero Scorpio as an important point. I've also got a note on here about spin. I'm going to talk a little bit about spin later as well. But let's get into this. The structure of prime numbers, or we can call it the rhythm of prime numbers. Well, prime numbers are odd numbers, aren't they? 7, 11, 17, 19. The number 2 is considered to be a prime number, so it's an exception to the rule. But other than the number 2, every prime number is an odd number. So obviously there is a structure to prime numbers. They're falling on every other beat. If you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's falling on the odd numbers. Now, of course, not every odd number is prime. Most of them are not. But when there is a prime number, it's an odd number. So there's a rhythm. Not a perfect rhythm, again, because most odd numbers are not prime, but all prime numbers, with the exception of the number 2, are odd. So there's a rhythm of 2. Obviously, it's so obvious we don't even usually think about it. Did you know there's a rhythm of 6? Prime numbers occur in a rhythm of 6, and that rhythm of 6 is more perfect than the rhythm of 2. There are fewer exceptions to the rule. And the formula that you'll see in mathematics books is 6n plus or minus 1. So if you take any integer number, you put a number in as n, the prime numbers will fit into this formula. So if n equals 1, we have 6 times 1 minus 1 is 5. 6 times 1 plus 1 is 7. 5 and 7 are prime. If n is 2, we get 11 and 13. So not every number will be prime from this formula, but all prime numbers fit in this formula. So where does this rhythm of 6 come from? What I'm telling you is that prime numbers have rhythms. They have a rhythm of 2. Every other number, only odd numbers, they have a rhythm of 6. And you can determine what the rhythm of prime numbers is by multiplying the prime numbers. So 1 times 2 times 3 equals 6. The next rhythm, another more perfect rhythm, we can make larger numbers that are more perfect, that have fewer exceptions, that catch the prime numbers with greater consistency. And what we do is we take the next prime number 5. 1 times 2 times 3 times 5 is 30. Prime numbers are in a rhythm of 30. And here it is. I've put 1 through 30 on a line, and I've put all the prime numbers circled in red or purple. Now look at the red ones. They are all symmetrical around the middle of 15. So 13 and 17 are prime numbers. 11 and 19 are prime numbers. 7 and 23 are prime numbers. 1 and 29 are prime numbers. They are all symmetrical around 15. And I've shown how far off they are. Plus 2, 4, 8, or 14. Or minus 2, 4, 8, or 14. All the prime numbers except the ones to create the beat. We create the beat by doing 1 times 2 times 3 times 5. Well, we don't have to say 1 because it doesn't change anything. We can just say 2 times 3 times 5. We take the first 3 prime numbers. We leave them out. We get a beat of 30 and we find this perfect rhythm and perfect symmetry. So 30 is a number around which prime numbers are symmetrical. It's like dropping a stone in a pond, or a lake or something that's very still, and radiates out from that center point equally. So 15 to 15 is a center point. And this is one of the reasons why I believe we have 30 degrees in a zodiac sign, because it creates this beautiful symmetry where each zodiac sign has the prime numbers symmetrical around the middle of the zodiac signs. Now, not every prime number fits perfectly in the scheme, but most of them do. And in the first 30, it's perfect. There we see it. All the red ones, perfect. But sometimes when we go to Taurus, in other words, we go 31 to 60, would be Taurus, the next 30. Or 61 to 90 would be Gemini. We'll have some red circles that are not prime. So all the prime numbers will be these red circles, symmetrical. But we will identify some that are not prime. It's the same thing with the odd numbers. Not every odd number is prime, but every prime number is odd. And as we go up, it becomes more perfect. We have fewer exceptions to the rule. We are finding the prime numbers. Now, what if we go up one more step? So we do 2 times 3 times 5. What's the next prime number? 7. We will get a more perfect symmetry of prime numbers. And that symmetry also means there's a rhythm because it's repeating. Like this pattern repeats every 30 degrees. These rhythms and symmetries of prime numbers are beautiful structures of the components, the building blocks of life. They're not perfect, but every building block, in other words, every prime number, fits into this. It fits right into it. Now, when we go up to the next level, 1 times 2 times 3 times 5 times 7, we get 210. 210 is the next level of the symmetry of the building blocks of life. If you look at prime numbers as the building blocks of life, maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but just to get the idea. Maybe it's not that big of an exaggeration. But anyway, you go up to the next level. This is like going up the next floor of a house. You're going up to a more perfect symmetry. You go all the way up to 210. Now you more perfectly have the prime numbers symmetrical around 210. 210 is the next anchor point. First anchor point is odd numbers. Next is multiples of 6. Next is multiples of 30, makes the zodiac. And the next is 210. In the zodiac, 210 is zero Scorpio, and that's why zero Scorpio is a symmetry point for the next level, and it helps connect us to other things. It becomes the nexus point, this anchor point, this connecting point, and that's why the ancient system of the rulerships, the planets ruling the zodiac signs, makes perfect sense. Because when we combine signs and houses, not signs and houses, signs and planets, we want to do it on this next level, this perfect point of zero Scorpio. It becomes the guiding center point. Instead of the cardinal cross, we shift over to zero Scorpio and it makes a cross, and we shift to the fixed cross. Okay, so bottom line is, whenever you're connecting different levels or different things, the connection is often made at zero Scorpio. Why? Because this is the symmetry point for the next level. So as you go into a greater range of numbers, they're going to center around 210. I mean, if you're only doing numbers up to 360, as we do in astrology, well, 210 is already more than halfway around the zodiac. But if you're using thousands of numbers, you'll see that 210 is a very good symmetry point. It is even in the zodiac. So, here's another way of thinking about it. There are more prime numbers symmetrical around this axis, the zero Scorpio, zero Taurus. If you start with Aries and you call the first degree of Aries 1, and you get to the end of Aries, you're at 30, and zero Taurus is 31, beginning of Gemini is 61. You go around and you find all the prime numbers, and you find where they're symmetrical. There are more of them symmetrical around the zero Scorpio, zero Taurus than any other place. To confirm this, I wrote a little computer program to find the prime numbers between 1 and 360 and find the symmetry points. Just search, and find them. And here it is. Let me skip that previous slide. Here it is. It's not a pretty program. I just did this to count. And at the bottom of this listing, there's a long listing of 360 points. At the bottom, it tells me there are 29 pairs of prime numbers symmetrical around zero Taurus and zero Scorpio. The next most symmetrical point is zero Aries and zero Libra, and they have 27. And then it goes to 15 Aquarius, 15 Pisces. It's curious. Actually, there's a whole bunch of them that have 26. 15 degrees of signs have symmetry points. The only way you find out where these symmetry points definitely are is you just have to find them. And fortunately, we have computers that can calculate this. What I'm telling you is this, to make this very simple. Zero Scorpio and zero Taurus are like the center line. They are a center line. They don't seem like it because they're skewed to the cardinal. They're skewed 30 degrees. You're going 30 from the Taurus and 30 from Libra, and you're getting that skewed point. But that skewed point has actually more symmetry. It's more of a balancing point. It's more of a fundamental focal point than the cardinal signs when you move up. It's created out of prime numbers. And somehow the ancient astrologers seem to have an understanding of this or some similar understanding that led them to use that fixed cross as the basis for connecting things. And because the zero Scorpio is the symmetry point for the next level, it connects you to the next level. So that's it, my friends. This is why the zero Scorpio is so powerful. Now here's another amazing thing. What if I keep finding the next symmetry point? So here I've made a table. 2 times 3 times 5 times 7. The next prime number is 11. I will get a number that if I put that on a circle 0 to 360, subtract out the 360s, I end up with the signs again. Same thing if I go to the next prime number 13, 17. What I'm saying is that all of the symmetry points end up forming a sequence of quincunxes. You start with Aries and you will go to either Virgo or Scorpio or Taurus. It's possible that if you keep going you might go to Pisces. You're going to go 30 degrees in one direction or 150 degrees. The 150 degree angle, either the short distance from Aries to Virgo or the long distance to Scorpio, is the distance to move to the next level. And it's an unbalanced, it's not a nice cross like, the cardinal cross or a grand trine. It's 150 degrees. It's not a nice balanced angle. And it creates a little bit of imbalance in order to grow to the next level. And the imbalance implies a kind of spin, a kind of lack of equilibrium. It takes a lack of equilibrium to break out of the current level and move to the next level. So the zero Scorpio point, especially because it's the next one, 2 times 3 times 5 times 7, jumps to Scorpio and then jumps 210 degrees from there, from Scorpio to Gemini, which is the next 210. Keep moving 210 degrees. It'll cover all 12 signs. 210 degrees becomes the point for connecting to the next level. And the quincunx aspect represents a new growth, a new opportunity. Okay, now in vibrational astrology, we analyze vibrations up to about 2,000 currently, because when you go beyond that, everything's moving so fast, like a 64 vibration or 64th harmonic, everything's going 64 times faster, or 128 vibrations going 128 times faster. At some point, everything's moving so fast, in 1 second, everything's moved, and there's no way to even think about it. It's too fast for human perception. So it looks like the vibrations go up to a few thousand, and the numbers are nicely symmetrical around the Taurus-Scorpio axis. Okay, so let me read this bottom paragraph. For prime numbers up to a few thousand, the beats and symmetries discussed set the fundamental patterns of prime numbers. In other words, we don't need to go beyond 210 because we're going beyond the scope of what we use in astrology. And also when we do it, we end up on multiples of 30 degrees anyway, as I showed in the previous slide. Well, if you find all of this nerdy number stuff, a little making your head spin on the topic of spin, here are the take-home points that are important. Zero Scorpio is a connecting point to the next level, or when connecting very different things. That's why it's used for the ruling planets of each zodiac sign. That's why we use it in vibrational astrology for understanding things like the four elements. It also creates the connection between the tropical and sidereal zodiac. I have a video on why the galactic center and it is related to the sidereal zodiac and how this involves the zero Scorpio as a fundamental point as well, and the quincunx aspect. So that's it, my friend. I think that's my last slide. Yes, it is. So that gives you an idea. Even if it's a little abstract, it gives you, for some of you, if you're not used to thinking about these things, about why zero Scorpio to zero Taurus is used for the ruling planets of the zodiac signs and why we use it for certain things in vibrational astrology. We understand this sacred geometry, how the vibrations are created out of these fundamental frequencies in this primal reality so well at this point through many years of using these ideas and analyzing them that we now understand many of these details. And one of the beautiful things is that so many things that seem arbitrary in astrology, like why the ruling planets are arranged as I show right here on this fixed cross and starting with zero Scorpio, why it now makes perfect sense. And so many things come together by understanding the simple underlying principles of sacred geometry and the vibrations created from that geometry, from which the astrological forces, we could call them, the astrological, sorry about that, the astrological matrix, we could call it, the planetary configurations that we use and interpret, how they're born out of these fundamental vibrations. Okay, well, that's it, my friends. Thank you very much for listening. God bless. Namaste.